Hi, my name is Dan Schulteis. This is my first story that I'm preparing for the Storytellers Workshop that I'll be doing along with a few others coming up in February for the first Friday, all Fridays in February. It's about 10 minutes long, but here it is for your review. You know, in some ways, we're all just human message boards with a lot of Post-it notes all over ourselves. It reminds me of February 27th, 1967. Now, I was almost 22 years old. I had a wife, matter of fact, my high school sweetheart, Carol, and a young baby. I had just graduated from college probably almost 2 years ago. I graduated a little bit early, and I was just schlepping around hoping to find a job. You know, I wasn't anything special. I had a degree in physics and math, and I thought, well, what the heck? I'm going to try to have a job, because my biggest concern was, how do I feed my wife and son and make a living for them? Along the way, I was working for a couple companies, but in some ways, I always had an urge to say, I wonder if I could ever work for IBM. I didn't know. I put in my application, never expecting to hear a response. But by God, I got a response. Not only got a response, I got a couple interviews. And oh my goodness, they hired me. So on February 27, 1967, I walked into the IBM office in Cincinnati, Ohio, and was inaugurated as a brand new associate systems engineer, which meant I had to learn programming languages, learn about computers. But almost as soon as I got in the door, they told me, just want to tell you, for every 100 we interview, we only hire one. And I thought, oh my God, I'm the one. I'm one. How could that happen? All of a sudden, I felt special. I'm special. I'm an IBMer. 1 out of 100. So I went on and learned the programming languages. I learned the computers and became somewhat of an expert over time. I wind up switching to sales, selling for a while, but along about 10 years, I was talking to Carol, my wife, and I said, we began talking, is there more? Should we make this job a career? So we decided to move. We moved 4 times in 7 years at that time, and wound up in 1984 in Richmond, Virginia, as a branch manager. Wow, that was special too. Why is that special? Well, there's probably 10 to 15,000 people then in the sales organization that even had a shot at these 400 jobs. So very few of them even get up to bat. And I wound up being one of them. Wow, special again. It was really amazing. And when I took over the branch in '84, we had really a lot of successful years in the next 8 to 9 years. Built it from 70 people to 160 people. Had 3 or 4 offices around the state. Really felt special. About midway, maybe halfway through that time as branch manager, Tom Watson Jr., who happened to be the son of the founder of IBM, Tom Watson, decided to do a worldwide video that he passed around to everybody, and we all were supposed to see it. It wasn't very long, and I don't remember if there were other items on it, but the one thing I do remember is he said, you know, there's lots of good computer companies that make good computer hardware going on now. Back then it was NCR, Burroughs, Hewlett-Packard. And he said, but IBM is set above the rest. But you know why? Not because we make better hardware, because our people feel special. You're what makes the difference. My fear, by the way, is if we ever have our people lose that feeling of feeling special, we'll just become another computer company. Wow. Now I'm about 20 years in, 22 years in IBM, And I'm special again because I've been with this company so long. I was so proud. I went home to Carol that night and I said, wow, I'm going to stay with this place the rest of my life. I ain't ever going to leave unless I want to leave. Well, guess what? 2 years later, IBM began to lose its market share. Management began to say the people weren't working smart or hard enough. And you could feel that special feeling of who we are start to go down. So they had to come down 100,000 people out of 300,000. I was one of them. Didn't want to go, had to go. So I remember the day, August 1st, 1992, when I walked out the door of IBM for the last time. But what I wasn't anymore, I wasn't a branch manager anymore. I wasn't an IBMer anymore. And I wasn't special anymore. So as you can imagine, I'm pretty depressed there. But by that time I had 4 kids. I had a mortgage, cars, bills. I had to keep moving. And I did. And over time that kind of faded out. That, went into the background, that feeling of, oh my God, of what I'm not. And I began in Richmond doing some, charitable work. Not a lot, but some. One college professor had me talk to a group of Richmond City School kids. And that's where I got the point about Post-it notes. I told them, we're all born with a warm light. We come into this world with a warm light. It's the warm light of self-acceptance. This is who we are, and we're out to discover the world. But what happens as we get older, people start putting Post-it notes with the labels of who they think we are or should be on us. Or they start describing us as too fat, too short, too tall. Smart. So labels can be good and bad. I told them, but by the time you're 21 or 22, your body's entirely covered with labels. And that warm light you can no longer see. Every once in a while, one of those Post-it notes will flip up and you'll get that warm light feeling and say, what was that? But all the Post-it notes are still there. A couple years later, I was talking to some prisoners in Richmond City Jail. I remember them sitting there with their orange jumpsuits. And I was telling them, I'm no different than you. I just happened to not choose the same behaviors and get caught at it that you did. So I asked them a question. I says, why don't you tell me, as you get out of here, what do you expect to be told by the people who love her or who are around you? I was astounded. All of them were, you're a drug addict. When you're going back in, you'll never stay out of jail. You owe me money. Everything they offered me was a negative comment. And I said, how can you hold your footing if all you're going to get is those kind of negatives? And suddenly it dawned on me and I said to them, you know what? You're not prisoners. You're human beings like me who happen to choose a behavior that was illegal. Because if you call yourself a prisoner, you can't outrun that. But you can choose not to do that behavior again. As I drove home from that day, all this thing congealed and I started saying, oh my God, I was them in IBM. I was special. I was a branch manager. I was IBMer. Those are all Post-it notes. I had a Post-it note to be a father and a son and a brother and a man and a wage earner. All of them had things that I had to live up to or down from. And I began to say, I got to get these off of me. So I began mentally peeling one at a time and build a list of those Post-it notes that still made me have those labels. But now they were out here. And what happened is every time I took one off, I got to experience that warm light a little bit more. Why is that important? Because it brings you peace and self-acceptance, which enables you to look at the labels and the roles as senses of adventure, rather than weights that you have to weigh on you. So my hope for you is that you can begin peeling off and building your own list of peeled off Post-it notes and rediscover your own warm light.